Good evening, everybody. We are going to call the April 20th meeting of the Common Council to order. I am going to ask our clerk to take a quick roll call.
Alderperson Weigel.
Here.
Grisham.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Keen.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Stefanski.
Here.
Tenorio.
Here.
Vitale.
Aye.
10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise if you are able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Weigel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, item D, we do not have any public hearings, so we will move right on to item E, which is citizen participation. This is an opportunity for the council to receive information from members of the public. We aim to keep this portion of our agendas to a 30-minute period, and we ask that you keep your comments to no longer than 5 minutes. And because I have this strange sense that we have a lot of people that want to speak tonight, I am going to see if you can make your comments less than 5 minutes to give more people a chance to speak. We can extend this 30-minute period if needed. We can't take action on topics raised by the speakers, and we can't discuss topics with the speakers per our ordinances. So if you do need to address the council under citizen participation, we ask that you use the podium, which is to most of your left, some of you to the right, and please give us your name and your address for our official record, and then you can say what needs to be said. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Don't be shy. Anybody can go first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Felicia Martin. I reside at 4629 West Scranton Place. I'm here to speak on R2021-0236. I am Milwaukee County Board Supervisor for District 7. I'm also the chairwoman of the Milwaukee County Health, Equity, and Human Needs Committee. Hence why I am here. I have a responsibility to every citizen in Milwaukee County. I am here to support this resolution before you all, because throughout our history, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have been the target of xenophobic immigration policies, labor exploitation, hate crimes, and systemic racism across the United States and here in Wisconsin. I could not believe what I heard and witnessed last week at your meeting when Angelito was presenting this resolution.
Supervisor Martin?
It broke my heart.
Supervisor Martin?
I want you all to please.
If you want to take your mask down so we can hear you better, feel free if you're comfortable. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are we going to wipe this down after I leave? Because I've had both my shots, but we're in the midst of a pandemic, and I want to be responsible.
Understood.
And we know that we are at a time in our history, in our nation history. I understand when you all say, let us do a resolution that covers all hate crimes. We're not in a country right now where that would be agreeable to me, because we know throughout our history there have been targeted individuals, there have been targeted groups. So we need to be specific when we are making resolutions and saying that we stand with our Asian brothers and sisters and that we will not tolerate hate of any kind. True, but right now, at this point in our history, we need to stand firm and say clearly, we respect and we love and we stand with our brothers and sisters who are under attack right now. All racism and hatred is unacceptable, but in this specific case, I want to hear specific language coming from this board, because I also not only stand as a Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, I am the first vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin and a DNC member, and I will bring the full weight of those offices with me when we look at you and see how you have targeted these folks. Oh yeah, and I sent a letter to you all, and some of you did a very good job and were very respectful and kind in your response. But to tell me to stay in my lane and stay in my district when I have a responsibility to all of Milwaukee County, I'm here to put you on notice too. I know who you are, and I don't take kindly to being told to stay in my lane. I'm an American citizen. My people's blood built this land. It flows in the earth here, and I will not tolerate anyone telling me to stay in my district. I have nothing to do with West Dallas. And I, again, will stand before you and say, I urge you to approve this resolution unanimously. I don't come to threaten anyone, but it breaks my heart when I hear what I heard last week, and I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that you would be so insensitive at a time in our nation's history when we need to stand firm. And if you truly believe that West Dallas does not have any problems, we know that all attacks are not reported to the cops for specific reasons, in particular for people who look like me and other people of color. It doesn't go well for us. So we don't report to your police officers. So please take that as a warning as well. Never tell someone to contact a police officer and they're a person of color. And next time, do your background check when you respond to me.
Thank you, Supervisor. Folks, before our next speaker, I'm just gonna ask that we don't really allow applauding and cheering. If you wanna do the hands, that's fine, but just because it can disrupt our process and we really want to keep this moving because there are a lot of speakers. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. My name is Moshe Katz, and while I live in Fox Point and work in Whitefish Bay, I'm the proud owner of 10253 West Cleveland Avenue here in West Dallas. I'm currently the board chair of the Milwaukee Jewish Federation, a board member of several other local nonprofits and foundations. I'm also a business owner of Petite Properties, a real estate investment company, and Yellowwood, an outdoor gear shop. I've been married for 30 years to a wonderful woman, and I have 2 amazing children. I'm a good man and proud of the work that I do both professionally as a lay leader. I'm honored to stand before you today to simply say to you, I'm ashamed of what you've done. You were given a chance to join a growing community in this country that has decided to say enough is enough, and to join together in a rally cry of not on my watch. You, the city leaders of West Dallas, had an opportunity to make a statement about the fact that violence and shameless and baseless hatred of Asian Americans and Island Pacificers will not be tolerated in your city, and you chose a banal argument that, quote, all people are equal. I believe that an opportunity arose during this challenging year of COVID. We were all given the chance to look around and see issues that are facing us and decide to make a difference. Some of us agreed that agitating, aggravating, advocating, and educating would become part of our lives. I believe that we have a chance to look at our neighbors, our fellow citizens, our families, and say yes to a better, kinder, gentler, and more compassionate future. We can stand together and say no to anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia, and so much more. As a dad, my wife and I realized early on that our children will need to be treated fairly, not equally. One child's need may outweigh the other at one point, as opposed to another at another time. If one child, God forbid, was diagnosed with diabetes, we wouldn't give both of them insulin. If one child needed more after-school help with math, they'd get what they would need and not set aside money for a bank for them to be paid back later. In life, I've learned to apply that same sound decision-making process for a host of businesses and personal matters. I don't replace the roof on all of my buildings just because one leaks. And I don't replace my wife because she's aging the same way a car might. Yet you, the city leaders, decided that all people should be treated equally. You decided that no one group deserves your attention when they are being isolated, hated, and hurt. As I told you, I own a property here in West Dallas. I promise you that if a building were, God forbid, on fire a few blocks away, I wouldn't expect you to pour water on my building because all buildings are equal. The Asian American and Island Pacifics are being attacked in our country. They are suffering radically more harassment, discrimination, and violence than they have year after year for the past decade and more. They, along with too many other minorities in our country, are being attacked, and you have chosen to turn the cheek, deciding there are greater priorities in your community responsibilities. Simply put, there is not one greater priority that you have in front of you than taking care of the need and safety of your citizens. Shame on you. I am not an Asian American, nor an Island Pacific American, and I stand here with you today to share these words of advice. I stand here today hoping that when they come for me, you'll stand there for me. Imagine the power we have and the possibility we have to individually change our community. I recommend you start with right here in West Allis with Resolution 2021-0236.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Francesca Hong. I am the proud daughter of Korean immigrants. I'm a mom. I'm an organizer, a chef, and small business owner. And I am the first Asian American lawmaker in the Wisconsin State Legislature. I represent the 76th District, and I'm proud to be born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, where I currently reside. You know, I wish we could have met under different circumstances. Local government, and particularly city councils all over Wisconsin, have persevered for their constituents during the most unprecedented times. We've had to come together to reevaluate, reconfigure, and now recover. And for many of us, however, especially in communities that are seen as lesser than, invisible, or disposable, our reconciliation, our recovery, and our rebuilding are not on pace because we're suffering from racial violence. I have to say it is both an opportunity of a lifetime and a terrifying burden to be the first AAPI lawmaker in the state legislature. We so often talk about representation, but what I know is that across all of our beautiful and diverse communities, we can do better than just representation, and we can aspire to do so much more. Our contributions are vast, our talents are phenomenal, and we are more than just campaign promises. I know we have AAPI leaders across this state, this city, this country, who continue to organize around issues that I know that you care about. They are all pioneers of mutual aid. They invest in veteran services, food insecurity, housing, and so much more. So let's continue to organize their power and love ourselves and love each other so people who look like me can live free from stereotypes, from microaggressions, narratives, and model minority myths that continue to limit our potential, and the blatant racism that induces generational trauma. We have to affirm in one another that we each have the power and potential to so fiercely be whoever we want to be. We must use that confidence to fight the systems of white supremacy that work to take away each of our agency. Our lives matter. We matter. We belong in this city, this country, this state. And I want to acknowledge right now that this stolen land that we walk on, it belongs to so many of us and none of us. Let's grieve, let's grow, let's transform our communities so fewer of us suffer and more of us can thrive. Professor Mimi Kim wrote something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And when I reflect on bigotry and fear, discrimination and hate in our communities, I think about this. Violence is also in the forgetting, which is why this resolution is so important. Let's work to pass this together, end white supremacy, end the trauma, and collectively heal. Thank you so much for your time. And I didn't mention earlier, my pronouns are she, her, hers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barb Sheen here, 1324 North 74th Street, Wauwatosa. I ran for county supervisor. I love West Allis. I love playing here. I love coming to the market. Historically, in our lives, my mom used to tell me how in World War II, German people were looked upon and frowned upon. And once again, we have a virus that we identify from a certain location, and we're repeating the same history. We need to simply reflect. Do we want that history to repeat itself, or have we grown? Have we grown as human beings with kindness, with our faith-based belief systems that we can do better? The Montagnard people, or the Mun people, they defended my friends in Vietnam. They died to protect my friends in Vietnam. I think it's appropriate that if they're being bullied, or people from China, that we take a moment to stand up and defend them with kindness. Nobody's asking for anything extreme. This resolution is actually rather benign. And sometimes groups of people need a little more love and kindness, because that's what we should identify with. I know that there's a lot of interpersonal conflicts with the discussion on the council, and I respect different opinions. But we need to remember that if we have another viewpoint on another subject, bring up another resolution. It's just one more thing added to contribute to the whole of being a better community that's welcoming to all. I love coming here. I love going to Panda Express and playing with Sean, who loves to look at my jewelry and my stones. And this is not a big ask. This isn't a big deal. The amount of conflict resulting from this is just rather telling. It's much ado about something that isn't that large. And bullheads all in a pond together only make mud. Let's clear the waters and do the right thing and move this resolution forward as good people do, as good humans do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexa Alfaro. I reside at 9175 South Patricia Boulevard in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. I am here to talk about Resolution 2021-0236. I am an Asian. That's the most obvious thing about me. I am also half white. I am an AAPI business owner. I own a food truck and a restaurant, Meat on the Street. We've been around for 7 years, promoting Filipino culture through cuisine. I am also standing before you tired. I am tired. I am tired of asking that you see me and you see an equal. I am tired of asking to not be lumped as other, especially when you have no idea of what other looks like. When people ask me where I'm from, I say Wisconsin. That answer is never good enough. I'm like, okay, well, I was born in Alaska, but I'm from Wisconsin. Like, that is where I'm from. The answer they're looking for is, you don't look like me, you can't be from here. What is your nationality? That right there others me. That is why that we ask that we get our own resolution and you don't lump us as all together, because there are people that do not see me as an equal. They do not see blacks as an equal. They do not see Hispanics as an equal. I am asking that when I bring my business to West Dallas, as it's often asked to do for various food truck events, and we love coming to the city of West Dallas, that I get the same rights and protections as other food truck owners who are not of AAPI, heritage, ethnicity, nationality. This is not a hard ask. This is not an uncommon ask right now, and it doesn't do anything to affect you. All I ask is that you see me and you see an equal, and therefore you give me the equal rights that we deserve in the city of West Dallas.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chrissy Fung. I live at 13875 West Marquette Drive in New Berlin. I'm an Asian American woman, and I work at a small business here in West Dallas, where I have seen several of you. I am here to express my disappointment and pain over what transpired at the License and Health Committee meeting on April 7th regarding Alderperson Tenorio's resolution to condemn violence against the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. I believe in the discussion that occurred during that meeting, the fundamental question of what is at stake for the Asian community in West Dallas was distracted from and diverted, primarily through the words of Alderperson Stefanski and Rote. To be clear, this is a question of whether West Dallas chooses to welcome and protect its AAPI members, or whether West Dallas turns its back on us. I understand that several of you have co-sponsored this resolution, and that should read as an indication of your support for the AAPI community. But your actions on the 7th and your willingness to allow Alderperson Stefanski to amend Alderperson Tenorio's resolution beyond recognition and to dilute its original meaning has broken our trust. I watched the YouTube recording of the License and Health Committee meeting. I listened to every word, and I felt something I had never felt before. I felt ashamed to work in West Allis, and I dreaded coming into work because I did not feel heard and protected by the leadership in this community. I was haunted by Alderperson Roat's claim that the attacks in Atlanta were not racially motivated. For those of you that may have missed it, Alderperson Roat claimed of the massage parlors, quote, "If they would have had a bunch of horses there would have been 6 horses killed." Whether or not he intended to compare Asian women to horses, these comments rang as callous, insensitive, and uncaring. I don't believe that I can convince Alderpersons Stefanski and Roat that what happened in Atlanta was racially motivated. However, I don't think I need to. Attacks against Asian American and Pacific Islanders are not limited to what happened in Atlanta. And for over a year now, the AAPI community has been experiencing an increase in hateful rhetoric and race-based violence. We have seen hate crimes against Asians spike nearly 150% from 2019 to 2020, even though overall hate crimes declined. Alderperson Tenorio included this statistic in his original resolution, and Mayor Devine read it to you during the meeting on April 7th. It is important to remember that these are only the hate crimes that are reported, and especially the most vulnerable in our communities may not report what happens to them at all. Still, the statistic as it is horrifying and compelling, and shows clearly why passing a resolution condemning violence against all minorities at this time was not appropriate, since violence against all minorities is not currently increasing. Although I have thankfully not been the victim of any violent racist attacks, I worry about my Asian family members. I worry about my community. I worry about people who look like me. I have also been the victim of race-based hateful comments right here in West Allis and in other places in the Milwaukee area. I would like to believe that that kind of racism doesn't exist in our backyard, but it does. Alderperson Stefanski claims that, quote, "We must stop labeling people," and, quote, "We are all humans." And while that attitude may seem all well and good, it does nothing to actually protect people who look like me, who are disproportionately being attacked right now. At a time when specifically anti-Asian rhetoric, hate, and violence are on the rise, a fact that is indisputably supported by statistics, it is crucial to show your support specifically for the AAPI community, particularly in a city like West Allis that is home to so many wonderful Asian small businesses. Small businesses where I personally go when I need supplies to celebrate cultural holidays and when I want to find the food that I used to eat when I was a little girl living in Hong Kong. The thing that is supposed to be beautiful about this country is that I can take all of these cultural experiences from my Cantonese father and my Wisconsinite mother, blend them together, and bring them into a fabric of democracy, free speech, and other shared values which many of our ancestors' countries may not afford us. The thing that is not beautiful about this country is that some people understand equality to mean that we paint over our differences and our diversity instead of celebrating and protecting it. You have already adopted a resolution condemning violence against all of us, but your work is not done there. In fact, I would argue that now that that's out of the way, you would have no reason to not support the resolution before you today unless you were intentionally trying to be divisive and dismissive of the Asian community in West Allis. Your previous actions have done enough damage, and regardless of intention, the optics are clear. The image you demonstrate is of a council so detached from the reality of the lives of your AAPI neighbors that when a member of the Asian community, a fellow member of your council, brought this resolution before you, you instead got caught up in debate about some hypothetical PC objections. And now not only have you damaged the trust that the Asian community has in you, you have clearly damaged trust with the community at large, as you can see by all these wonderful folks that have shown up to speak before you today. I thank you for your time, and I urge you to adopt Alderperson Tenorio's resolution as written in order to send a message of support and repair to the Asian American community in West Allis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Jim Nichols. I live at 813 South 87th Street, and I'm going to take Councilman's advice and talk about something totally different. I lived in my house for about 30 years, give or take, and illegal overnight parking has always been a problem here, for whatever reason. It clogs the streets. It often prevents me from parking in front of my own house. It prevents DPW from cleaning the streets effectively, leaf pickup, and of course, snow removal. This past snowfall was a prime example of how that problem is a citywide problem. A number of years ago, there was a renter living directly across the street from me. who would always park his beater Mustang in front of my house. He never parked on his side, ever. I call West Dallas PD just about every other night to have the car ticketed when it was illegally parked. He never got a ticket for 2 years. I finally got fed up with that, and I contacted then Chief Pushnik about it, told him the whole story in more detail, and he was really interested in what I had to say. He then asked me what the guy's name was across the street, and I said, Thad Blattner. And Pushnik paused, and he said, Blattner, huh? We've got a dispatcher by that name. I'll let you figure out why Thad Blattner never got a ticket. Yeah, so anyway, after that phone call with Pushnik, the problem stopped. Nepotism? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, that's background. The reason I'm speaking here is I wanted to publicly thank my two alderwomen, Grisham and Keene, for recognizing that overnight parking is a problem in this city, and it proliferates to cause other problems. And I brought this problem up to countless number of bigwigs in the city, directors, other aldermen, including Mike May and Gary Barzak. Nobody wanted to do anything about it, despite my constant complaints. And that kind of blew me away, because if you look at any city budget, the city nets close to $1 million every year in parking tickets alone. It's $1 million. Anyway, Keene and Grisham saw the problem and they met it head on for a change. Rather than just talk about it, they actually did something, and they're proposing changes that will make life better for everybody, particularly those on the East End who have a better chance of being impacted by this illegal parking and suffering for it. They've made great strides in attempting to make real changes for West Allis residents that will have real effect on the quality of life, and I think they deserve credit for doing what alders should do, and that's solve local problems. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Sign later. Excuse me.
Good evening, Mayor Devine and members of the Common Council. My name is Michael May, 837 South 113th Street. I came here tonight to express my dismay at the occurrences of the last council meeting, and specifically the Public Works / Advisory Committee meeting. I actually jumped on the meeting to watch what was going on with the mask debate and some of the discussion on that, and I hung around and was woefully shocked, because I think what happened at that meeting does not represent this city, and to be honest with you, I don't think it represents most of the members of this council very well. I think the Mayor Devine did a fine job explaining exactly how callous the actions of Alderman Stefanski were. Alderman Stefanski, Alderperson Tenario told you straight to your face how tone-deaf, callous, and hurtful your actions were. Your whitewashed rhetoric was ignorant and shows indifference at best and smacks of racism at worst. The reason I stay in this community is because this is a community and I live in a neighborhood that celebrates diversity. It does not pretend that diversity does not exist. I expect my Common Council members, specifically my representatives and all members of the council and my mayor, to stand with communities when they're in pain, to not turn away and pull an all pain is bad rhetoric. Where is your empathy? Where is your heart? Alderperson Tenario, I think you are owed an apology by Alderperson Stefanski for his actions that evening. And though Alderperson Stefanski, I agree with you that we need to cut hate throughout the community, this was specifically geared towards a community that is experiencing pain. And to the other members of the Common Council who were there in that meeting room and stood against Alderperson Tenario, I was shocked, because that's not the person that I know. So Alderperson Tenario, I want to thank you again. I would greatly appreciate you to keep rocking the boat, keep standing up for what's right,
And to those Common Council members who will do the same, you will continue to have my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so everybody's aware, we're past our 30-minute timeline, and unless there's an objection from the council, I'm willing to let people keep going. Is there anybody here that wishes to just be recognized as being in support of Alderperson Tenorio's resolution and doesn't want to speak? Just to streamline things a little bit. If you want to speak, you're welcome. We're at about a half an hour right now, but we'll keep going for at least another 15 minutes and then just see where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Devine. Thank you, council members. Chris Larson, state senator, represent half of Milwaukee, St. Francis, Cudahy, South Milwaukee, Oak Creek, and the best parts of Franklin. Was born in West Dallas. I'm a fourth generation American. The third generation moved to West Dallas and lived at 9007 West Cleveland Avenue before Madge, resided at 2101 South 97th Street, which is where I knew her before she passed away on the 4th of July in the year 2000. So I have connection to our great community here in West Dallas. I have staff that works in West Dallas, and I recognize, representing a specific constituency of 172,581 people, that if sometimes people come out of that area, it's the easiest thing to look past them and think, well, that's not the person I represent. But I'd ask you to look and recognize the irony of doing that and looking past this resolution, which I would hope you would pass today unamended. It's common sense to stand up for your neighbors and to look into your neighbors' eyes as your neighbors, regardless of where they live, regardless of how they look, and regardless of how they speak. We have to meet the need where it is as public servants. The American experience is as varied as the people who make it up. The foundation of our strength is in celebrating that diversity. In early 2017, I was proud to stand against anti-Muslim hate, although I am not a Muslim. We rallied folks at Milwaukee City Hall from various faith communities and backgrounds to stand against the anti-Muslim travel ban that was moving forward at the federal level. I joined in marches standing up for Black lives, although I am not Black. But because there was attention on it and because it was the right thing to do, I stood in march after march and brought my kids with me. When my Sikh neighbors were targeted in an attack in August 5th of 2012, I stood with my Sikh neighbors, although I am not Sikh. It was the right thing to do, and it was a time where that community needed healing, and continue to stand with them in the years since. And when hate crimes against immigrants are happening, I stand with my immigrant neighbors, even though I'm not an immigrant. Now, as we see an increase in anti-Asian hate and violence that has ebbed and flowed but steadily continued over the last year, I stand with my Asian American and Pacific Islander community because it's the right thing to do, although I am not Asian and I am not Pacific Islander, but I am their neighbor, and that is the right thing to do. So now I ask you, as my fellow Americans, to join us, to join the right side of history, and to believe your neighbors, and to stand with your neighbors. I find the benefit, having served in both partisan and nonpartisan roles, one of the benefits of having been in nonpartisan role was there's less attention without the label after your name. And sometimes when you're wrong, it's okay to take a step back, nod your head, and move along with the right side of history. So I would hope today you vote yes on Alderman Tenorio's resolution, unamended, and move along with us on the right side of history.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angelica Verona Kamara. I come here as president of the Filipino American Association of Wisconsin. I represent more than the Filipinos, but a community which we serve. I'm here to represent a community thought of as invisible. People are here to support and help those who do not understand the value of a statement. These are just words. I bring this to my board and trustees, to which I am helping in Brown Deer, to write a statement also against anti-Asian hate crimes. In addition to all who have gone before me, the incident here, which will be recorded in our own history, and what the APPIs have gone through. So I'm here to ask you, what are the possibilities of you having to approve and have a statement to be against anti-Asian hate? What do you create, or what do you want to create for yourselves, for the future of your own family and the community? What is the transformation do you want to achieve with yourself, the people around you, and those who you see as leaders? These are words that is a cause in the matter of creating peace in the lives now and in the future. You have the power to harness, to go towards peace, empathy, and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
I could take my mask off, right? Okay. I got my shots. Good evening, council members. My name is Nichols Truag. Thank you for allowing me to make public comment. I am a third generation Westallian. My grandparents moved here, raised my mom here, and I myself lived here and went to school here along with my little sister. Full transparency, I was classmates and teammates with some of your kids and family members here. Go Bulldogs. But as an alumni of West Dallas Central, who is a part of this community, I want to express my support and encouragement for this council to support the resolution to condemn hate and violence towards Asian American and Pacific Islanders. Racism has had a long, disgusting history in this country and nation, and it has happened here in West Dallas. As a black male, I have witnessed discrimination growing up here and attending our public schools. Racism, xenophobia, bigotry exists here, and it's not new. But the thing is, our community has continuously worked to make this place more diverse, inclusive, and stop that from occurring. And whether it was elected leaders, our teachers, my classmates, or just whether it was on the football, wrestling, or track team, or wherever, we cared about each other and we didn't want people to feel that way. So when I saw the news last week that Alderman Tenario's original proposal was not passed with consent, I was upset because it did not reflect those West Dallas values, what our teachers taught us, what some of y'all have, like on this council, have taught us. And it was just not right, and it was wrong, and it was tone deaf. And I understand everyone makes mistakes, but we have to communicate that Asian Americans have faced racism, xenophobia in this country, and it's gotten worse the past year. Violence against everyone, yes, should always be condemned, of course, but in this moment, Asian American and Pacific Islander communities need specific action and support. Over the past year, Asian Americans have increasingly been harassed, assaulted, scapegoated for the COVID-19 crisis. Hate crimes against Asian Americans have increased by nearly 150% in major U.S. cities in 2020, even as hate crimes did drop. Hate towards their communities have continued, and it's not right, and it's not who we are. No one in this country should live in fear because of how they look or who they are, and regardless of our identity or position in life, we have a responsibility to speak out against this violence and ensure communities are safe for everyone. Adopting this resolution will be a clear statement and act to prove that we are here to support the API community and condemn violence, hate, and discrimination, but it's only the first step and there's a lot of work to be done. And I hope you all can unanimously pass this resolution and not have to have this conversation again and can move on to do other and better things to make this community more inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ann Beltinorio. I reside at 1460 Six Points Crossing. I've lived in West Dallas since I can remember. And as a person of color, especially an Asian woman, I should feel safe and supported in my community. I shouldn't feel unsafe just because of the way I look and just because of what my race is. I was extremely disheartened and honestly just very disappointed watching the last council meeting when my brother, Alderman Tenorio, wanted to pass a resolution condemning hate crimes. I was honestly just very shocked at the amount of dismissive, aggressive, and insensitive comments that were made towards my brother. As the only person of color, especially the only Asian man on the entire council, when he's trying to ask you to help protect his community, your first option isn't to argue. You should listen. A fellow colleague is trying to explain to you that he's scared and that he wants to protect the people in the community, and you shouldn't argue. The Asian community is hurting, and we're scared. We're worried about if what happened in Atlanta could happen to any one of us. And honestly, to compare the shooting against Asian women to horses, like, I have no words for that. I'm confused as to why that comparison was made. Hate crimes towards Asian Americans have been skyrocketing, and we need to stand up. We need to unify, and we need to stand up against hate crimes against Asian Americans. West Dallas alderpersons, I'm asking you all to reconsider your thoughts on the resolution. The API community is worth protecting. I'm worth protecting. As government officials that have been elected by the people for the best interest of the people, I ask that you guys vote in favor of the resolution to take more steps towards eliminating hate crimes and towards protecting your community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mainza Tao. I am not a resident of West Dallas, but I do want to share my experience in helping to develop the economic development here in West Dallas. I was the former executive director of the Hmong, Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, and I worked closely with Patrick Slosh to bring in businesses that were AAPI owned and diverse owned businesses into West Dallas. I am an Asian American. I am Hmong American. I think you all know too that West Dallas is home to our annual Hmong New Year celebration, in which we bring over 20,000 community members, Hmong and otherwise, to this celebration right here in West Dallas. It is beyond sad, it is beyond disappointing that when Alderman Tenorio brought forth his resolution, that there was no support. It was a simple resolution. We've brought businesses into this city when I was in my role at the Hmong Chamber under the belief that West Dallas was a welcoming community. It would be a community that would protect all of its residents and its business owners. And then to support our Hmong community during our very huge, the largest New Year celebration in this entire state. Beyond sad, and to have friends and colleagues and allies who are of Asian American descent have to come here tonight to urge you to do what is right in the midst of pain, in the midst of still grieving, in the midst of still having to fight to protect our communities. This shouldn't even be the situation. I am not here to urge you to support the resolution, but I am here to urge you to do what is right, because this is the moment in time in which you, as leaders within West Dallas, should be supporting our communities that are being targeted in this moment in time. And yes, I agree. All hate, all violence, all xenophobia, all of that needs to go. But in this moment in time, these very specific communities, including our AAPI communities, all we needed was a simple stance that you all could have taken the first time around. And I hope, as we have friends who continue to live, work, and play here in this city, that we can encourage them to continue to work, live, and play in the city of West Dallas. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening?
Good evening. My name is Austin Keeler. I reside at 805 Lois Avenue, Brookfield, Wisconsin. I do not live here in West Dallas, but I was born here in West Dallas, and I'm proud to regularly be a customer and support businesses in this community. I also spoke with you before when you all took action to protect LGBTQ plus youth and pass a ban on conversion therapy. And I would just like to say thank you again for taking that action. You heard from community members who said they were hurting. You heard from community members who told you that this practice was child abuse, that it needed to stop, and you took action to protect LGBTQ plus youth in West Dallas. Today, you are hearing from Asian American and Pacific Islanders in West Dallas and beyond who are telling you that they are hurting, that they are facing abuse, that they are facing racism, and that they are being targeted. I would like to ask you to please show them the same amount of support by passing this resolution unamended that you showed the LGBTQ plus community when you passed that ban on conversion therapy. It's the right thing to do. There is a room full of people asking you to do it. Your own fellow council person has asked you to do it. So please just do the right thing. Thank you. That's all I'll say. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ariana Henderson, she, her, hers. I live at 2147 South 67th Place here in West Dallas. And I'm asking you here all today to support the resolution that Alderman Tenorio has put forward condemning hate crimes against the AAPI community. The words and rhetoric that I heard 2 weeks ago were racist and misogynistic. But the silence from so many of you upheld that racism and misogyny. Let me repeat that. The silence from so many of you upheld racism and misogyny. We have to do better. We have to do better. What kind of community do we want to be a part of? What kind of community do we want to help cultivate? I hope it isn't one filled with racism. I hope it isn't one filled with misogyny. I know that I was raised better than that. I was raised better to see when people are being disproportionately impacted and to call that out. You have a member of the AAPI community on your council asking for your support, and instead you centered your own privilege, your white identity, and upheld white supremacy. I know that these words sound dramatic, but they are not dramatic. I am calling it what it is, and you've heard so many people in this room call it what it is. Pass this resolution in full. We need to do a better job, a much better job of listening to our community members, especially the ones who are hurting. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
I am Joanne Kretz, 1537 South 79th Street. I'd just like you to hear from a resident of West Dallas that I support the resolution. It is important that we let the Asian Americans in our community know that we see what is going on and that we support them as valued members of West Dallas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. want to make sure I stop my timer here. So we are going to close up citizen participation. I do just want to take a minute and thank everybody for showing up, for speaking, for being respectful, and sharing your thoughts and your emotions and your voice with us. That's what citizen participation is about. That's why we keep it on our agenda, and we don't always get a lot of participation. So I'm very impressed and very happy that all of you are here tonight to participate with us. So thank you so much. We are going to proceed with our agenda at this point. Moving on to item F on the agendas, our standing committees will be meeting during recess. Those room numbers are listed on the bottom of page 1. Moving on to page 2, the mayor's report. I just have one comment I want to make, and I had talked with Alderwoman Grisham on this. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it is also the month which we take part and participate in Denim Day, which some of you may be familiar with. We have been hanging blue jeans out on light poles on City Hall. We've been partnering with the City of Milwaukee and their Office of Violence Prevention, and it does create some discussion. But it was based on a case in Italy some years ago where a judge found a woman guilty, or I should say found a man not guilty, because the woman he was accused of assaulting and raping was wearing jeans that he deemed were too tight. So we hang jeans outside in our downtown just to kind of keep that discussion going and raise awareness. And we do encourage support to entities like the Sojourner Peace House and some of the programs we have in our own police department. So that's all I have for the mayor's report this evening. Item H, do we have any reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine?
Alderwoman Keene.
As most were aware, we had a District 3 cleanup this past Saturday, and I really wanted to thank everyone, citizens that came out. It was a really great turnout. Thank you to the DPW, Derek, Sarah, Dave for helping get us set up and also picking up the garbage. We had over 15 bags alone around city neighborhoods. We had a Boy Scout troop pack that focused on the Hank Ayrton Trail and collected numerous amount of items. So I just really want to thank everyone for coming out and showing that sense of community to help get us cleaned up.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine?
Alderperson Grisham.
I would like to echo what Alderwoman Keene has just said about our community. We partnered on having this community cleanup specifically for District 3 as kind of a piece to bring our neighborhoods together. What we saw was an expansion throughout the city. We had people from East Dallas come up. We had kids from all over the place throughout the city. We had a wonderful day doing this together, and it really was refreshing, especially after the year that we've all had, where our emotions are very high, and we've been virtually trapped in our houses. So it was very, very nice just getting together. But I wanted to make note to a particular family that went the extra measure the day after, and this was just an example I wanted to give everybody. It didn't take us just organizing this to get these people motivated, but they went out the very next day. And on 97th and Greenfield, right by the freeway, there was an off-ramp that was just awful, and we kind of lovingly refer to this hill now as Mount Stallis. And they went back out there the very next day with their family, grandma, grandchildren, and I just wanted to read something that they wrote that they tagged me in. And it said, update from yesterday. What do you do when you start a project? You finish it. Great job to my team, Grandma Deb, Gavin, and I. If you don't like something, do something to change it. He hated how filthy the off-ramp looked, so they did something about it. Do something good today, and you'll feel better. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Tenorio?
I just want to say to the community here today, thank you so much for your support. The outpouring of love and support really does mean the world to me and the API community here in West Dallas. So thank you all for showing up and speaking out.
Thank you. Any other reports?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of April 7th, 2021 and April 12th, 2021 Common Council meetings.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Grisham. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Standing committee reports, we have Administration and Finance Committee. Can we do that now?
We can report that out after recess.
Okay. And Safety and Development Committee?
You can do it now.
Do it now? Okay.
The Safety and Development Committee recommended approval of item number 3.
Mayor Devine, I move for adoption of the committee report on item 3.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Tenorio.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for suspension of the rules so that we may act upon tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the rules are suspended.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Stefanski.
can I request item number 10 be separated, please?
Yep. Any other items for separate action?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the consent agenda with the exception of item number 10.
Second.
We have a motion with a second by Alderwoman Keene. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the balance.
Alderperson Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Tenorio.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of item number 10 on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion. Alderman Tenorio, were you seconding that?
Yes.
'Cause I'm giving it to you. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Vitale.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to begin first. I appreciate tonight many people show up to in regard item number 10, the resolution sponsored by Alderperson Tenorio. But the fact it is, you know, United States was created with, we all know that, with many immigrants, which I'm one of them. Back in the days, any ethnic groups, most of them, they were discriminated in this country. Many of them. Whether it was a working place, people worked like slaves. In the South, anywhere. They were treated until the Union came forward. Early in the 1900, 1915, 1920, many people died for that, to get their rights within their livelihood, to support their families. So the fact it is, this country, that we have a constitution already in place, that no one should be discriminated within this land. So that's just a bill was approved by the Congress and Senate years ago. Has held any validity? Really? I wonder if it really holds any validity. It's there. So the fact is, I look this way, in a genuine point, for the right inside my heart. I know that people have been discriminated. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country. But the fact stands, if you approve one resolution only for one group of people, the API, to me, I mean, you're discriminating against everybody else. To me, to have unity in this country and everybody be treated equally, you have to talk about diversified, not causing division. We need unity. That's the words I've been using. We need unity in this country. It's no play games here. I mean, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, whether it's black, Asians, Italians, or German, Croatians, Serbians, Irish, anybody. I don't think that's the point here. In West Dallas, for the last 5, 6 years, there is no records on the books within the police department there has been any harassment of Asian American. None. Zero. We have, this, West Dallas is not a discriminated city. We have a West Dallas police department. We have a police and fire commissioner woman, and she's black. And she's so graciously great woman to have in the police department. So the fact, what we're doing here, that's an advisory resolution which doesn't have a leg to stand on. If you want to play politics, let's start from the state to sponsor such a resolution. The county, just as well. Don't play politics. Don't do that. Just for City of West Dallas, do it make any sense? Just for a community of 60,000 people? We need something broad, something bigger. Start probably again from the federal government down to the states. For us, what's this? What is going to do? So, if we talk about Alderperson Stefanowski, the issue is that he amend Alderperson Tenorio the fact that he include all ethnic group, not just the Asian group. There's nothing wrong with that, to include everybody else. I think that's what we need. Try to get along. I heard tonight about the color, the way you look. I never look at it that way. Again, I repeat, I'm an immigrant myself. If I respect people, they're going to respect me back. If you're an idiot, many people are not going to respect you. That's what I like to see this country to be. But not just talking about and make a big issue tonight. We really make something that really doesn't happen in West Dallas. It doesn't happen. It never happened in West Dallas. West Dallas is a good community. That there's no, we welcome all the people that have been coming through West Dallas and live here. You know, if people have some different feeling about it, well, that's where life is. But we need unity, not division. Even if President Biden keeps saying that, we need unity in this country. But if you talk just to one side, one race, or one ethnic group, you're going to continue to separate people in America. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this resolution. I was a co-sponsor a couple of weeks ago when the resolution was first introduced. I'm not on the License and Health Committee, so I didn't have an opportunity to vote on it at that point. However, I think this resolution speaks to the fact that there has been numerous hate crimes around this country directed at the AAPI